Welcome to Nerdy and Flirty, a podcast designed to help you create a life that you love. It's nerdy with science-backed information, and it's flirty. It's fun, it's quick, it's straight to the point. My name is Cass, and welcome to episode 17. This episode is one that you are definitely going to want to take notes for because we are diving into micronutrients. Now, we all see nutrition advice all over social media, whether we want to or not. And it's all about the macronutrients. We all see high protein, low fat, low carb, high fat, carnivore diet, all the things about the macronutrients, which are our proteins, our carbs, and our fats. But no one's really talking about our micronutrients, which I think are equally as important, and also one that people are kind of consuming blindly. Now, let me explain. Nowadays, any influencer can recommend any kind of supplementation, whether they know about it, whether they need it, whether you need it, or whether you don't. And we all just kind of buy into it because we see it on social media. And that frustrates me because some of these supplements, a lot of these supplements, are either a waste of money or could actually do more harm than good. Today, I'm going to give you the background knowledge on vitamins and minerals so that you can be an informed consumer of these products. And I'm going to give you the do's and don'ts of supplements because it's crazy how much I see certain products recommended to everyone, saying everyone needs this, when only a small percentage of people actually need certain supplements. I'll just tell you this now. The FDA does not approve or regulate supplementation, so anything can be considered a supplement with added ingredients, artificial sweeteners, all kinds of stuff added in, and you really have no idea because supplements are just the consumer's supposed to know what's good and what's not. And the truth is, a lot of us don't. So today, we're going to change that. So get your notebooks out, get your pencils out, and let's get into it. So you've probably heard of macronutrients. People talk about tracking their macros, right? Which are your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. Maybe that's for another episode. Today, we're talking about our micronutrients, which are a lot smaller, but are equally as important in having a properly balanced diet. Our micronutrients are responsible for so many bodily processes and functions, and we need adequate amounts of them to properly function and optimally perform. So there are a few categories of micronutrients. We have our phytonutrients, our myconutrients, our zoonutrients, and then we have our vitamins and our minerals. I will definitely go into the vitamins and minerals later in the episode, but first let's just do some background knowledge on phytonutrients, myconutrients, and zoonutrients, because we've all heard of vitamins and minerals probably, but we haven't really heard of these other three micronutrients. So phytonutrients are found in plants, myconutrients are found in fungi, and zoonutrients are found in animal products. So for phytonutrients, the way to make sure you're getting enough phytonutrients is eating a variety of plants and vegetables. So this would mean specifically eating the rainbow when it comes to your vegetable consumption, making sure you're getting reds, yellows, oranges, blues, greens, purples, all the different colors in the rainbow, and also changing up where you're getting the colors from. So if you're always eating red peppers, switch it up and eat beets or eat tomatoes. Find different sources of that color because that's going to maximize the phytonutrients that you get. This is why people usually recommend greens powders because they're usually made up of different forms of the green phytonutrients like spirulina or things you might not normally consume on the day-to-day basis. However, it is super important to look at the ingredients list on greens powders because while the phytonutrients are important, usually they're very processed, and in order to stop them from tasting like dirt, they have a lot of added ingredients like artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, stevia extracts, and things to try to make this dirt thing taste better. And in my opinion, it would be more beneficial for most people to just try to eat more vegetables and eat a variety of vegetables than taking this greens powder that has all these added artificial sweeteners in them. When it comes to phytonutrients, eating the rainbow is going to be your best bet, and trying to get as whole foods as possible. So getting fresh organic produce will be your best bet when it comes to trying to get as many phytonutrients as possible. I can also post a list of different fruits and vegetables that are in each color category because it's hard to think of things that are blue and purple and some of those more random colors. Next up is myconutrients, and myconutrients come from fungi or mushrooms. So in order to get these, you want to just be eating mushrooms, basically, adding mushrooms into your diet. Trust me, they're actually pretty good. I used to think mushrooms were so gross just by how they looked. But if you cut them up and add them in with other vegetables, you can't even really tell the difference. Season them well, add them into your diet, saute them with some olive oil, and they will be so tasty. Phyto and myconutrients have all kinds of positive benefits in our body, like reducing free radicals, helping with hormones, DNA repair, fighting off bacteria and viruses, all kinds of different benefits. So it's really important to add them into your diet and make sure you're eating a varied diet. Next up is zoonutrients, and this is easy to remember because where do you find animals? Besides in the wild, you find them in the zoo. So zoonutrients come from animal products. And some of these you may have heard about already. I know creatine is making a huge appearance on social media, which is amazing because creatine is super important. And creatine is considered a zoonutrient. There's also carnosine and carnitine and some other zoonutrients that are important in our diet. Zoonutrients are found in meat and dairy, and of course supplementation. But if you're trying to get your nutrients from whole foods, it actually does matter where the animal comes from. It matters their lifestyle and everything like that. That's why people say it's best to get grass-fed, organic, and wild-caught meats, because these products actually have the highest quality and the highest quantity of the zoonutrients. Like if you took an unorganic chicken and compared it to organic grass-fed chicken, you would actually see differences in the quality of creatine, carnosine, and all the other zoonutrients that animal products have. The main thing to know about phytonutrients, myconutrients, zoonutrients, and just all nutrients in general is that the best sources are from as minimally processed sources as possible. So eating whole foods, whole meats, whole vegetables to get the highest quality and quantity of micronutrients. So now what everyone's waiting for, let's talk about vitamins and minerals. So we're going to start off with vitamins, and there's actually two different categories of vitamins. We have water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. So what is the difference between water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins? So like the name describes, water-soluble vitamins dissolve in water, where fat-soluble vitamins dissolve in our fats. Now for water-soluble vitamins, this means that they don't really last very long in our body because they go away so quickly. We can't really store them because we have so much water, it just dissolves. Where in fat-soluble vitamins, we can store them longer term in our tissues, in our fat tissues. So for our water-soluble vitamins, which are our B vitamins and vitamin C, we actually need to take them in every single day through foods or supplementation. Where with our fat-soluble vitamins, we can get away with taking them in regularly, but not necessarily every single day. If you take in too much of the water-soluble vitamins, you'll likely just pee it out, where if the fat-soluble vitamins, if it's too much, your toxicity risk is actually higher. So let's actually go through the vitamins. So the B vitamins, which are water-soluble, are mainly linked to metabolism. So B1 is thiamine, and thiamine is found in a lot of different foods. So there's not really a lot of B1 deficiency that we've seen because many foods already have B1 in it. B1 can be found in beans and legumes, but also a lot of our whole grains have been fortified with B1. So all of our cereals, oats, all that kind of stuff has B1 in it. B1 has a bunch of different functions, but one of them is actually detoxifying alcohol. So people with alcoholism can actually develop a B1 deficiency because the liver uses up B1 to detoxify any alcohol. And if you're constantly consuming alcohol, you might not have enough B1. B2 is riboflavin, and B2 is also not very commonly seen as a deficiency because a lot of our foods have B2 in it as well. B2 plays a big role in regulating the other B vitamins. It also helps with metabolizing toxins in the liver like drugs and alcohol. And something interesting about B2 is it actually isn't absorbed very well. So if you started taking a new vitamin and you saw that you have bright yellow pee, it's probably you peeing out the B2 because you don't really absorb it very well, which means that supplement probably isn't doing very much for you anyway. B2 is found in a lot of different foods like soybeans, mushrooms, spinach, whole grains, eggs, shrimp, and dairy. B3 is niacin. And niacin is found in a lot of different foods, just like B1 and B2, like fish, pork, whole grains, mushrooms, tomato products. And niacin from foods is safe, but toxicity can happen from excessive supplementation with B3 or niacin, which can lead to some unhappy and unwanted symptoms like nausea, diarrhea, your skin being flushed, liver toxicity. And liver toxicity is actually an important one because you have to think with every supplement and even medication that you take, your liver filters it all out. If you're taking in a ton of supplements, a ton of medications, and then drinking or taking drugs on top of it, your liver is getting overworked and it becomes too much for the liver to actually filter out. So you want to be careful in how much you're taking in and really be cautious about the supplements you take in and if it's doing more harm than good. Next up is B5, which is pantothenic acid. This is just like B3 in that we get it from our foods, and actually our gut can produce a little bit of B5 as well. And deficiency is very rare for B5, but toxicity can occur if you're taking in too much in supplementation. B5 is found in a ton of different foods like mushrooms, corn, avocado, egg yolks, chicken, fish, and more. B5 plays a big role in our skin health and also helps synthesize different neurotransmitters, hormones, and cholesterol. Next is B6, which is pyridoxine. And B6 also helps form those hormones and those neurotransmitters and is found in a ton of different foods like potatoes, sweet potatoes, seeds, fish, pork, beef, and poultry. Now, B6 is interesting because not getting enough can lead to some nervous system disorders and some mood disorders like depression and anxiety because of its role in forming neurotransmitters. But too much B6 can lead to some neurological pain symptoms. Taking in too much B6 through supplementation can actually cause things like tennis elbow and carpal tunnel. So it's important to look at your supplements and see if you're taking in too much of something. Remember, when it comes to supplements, too much of a good thing can actually become a bad thing. So you really want to look at the labels, and we'll go through it at the end of some do's and don'ts and common practices of checking out supplements. All right, we're almost through the B vitamins. B7 is biotin, which we all hear about, because not getting enough biotin can actually lead to hair thinning and hair loss. So a lot of people say that biotin is important, and a lot of those hair, skin, and nail supplements actually have biotin in them. But biotin is also found in a lot of foods like nuts, chocolate or cacao, egg yolks, tomatoes, onions, pork, fish, and dairy. Now, I know we all want healthy hair, skin, and nails, but if you're taking these supplements and you're taking too much biotin, your body's going to excrete the excess. So you might just be wasting your money if you're taking in all these different supplements because too much of it will just get excreted throughout the body. Super high amounts of it through supplementation can impact your lab results, specifically with your thyroid. So definitely check out your supplements if you're taking in too much. Next is B9, which is folate. And folate, I feel like, is known for the pregnancy prenatal supplement because so many prenatals have extra folate in them. This is because too little folate can actually lead to neural tube defects. So when you're pregnant, you want to avoid that by taking in folate. If you're not pregnant, too little folate can also lead to anemia, weakness, and low white blood cells. Now, folate plays a big role with developing babies while you're pregnant, but it also uses up B12 and vitamin C. So if you're taking in too much folate, you actually could show a vitamin B12 deficiency because you're using up all the B12 and it looks like a vitamin B12 deficiency when in reality it's actually an excess of B9 or folate. Which brings us to our last B vitamin, which is vitamin B12. Now, B12 is interesting because we actually can store B12 in our liver. And that's important because as we get older, we stop absorbing B12 as much. So having a storage is important. B12 deficiencies are really popular in people that are plant-based only or don't eat a lot of meat. And this was actually the case for me. I got my levels checked through blood work and I found that I had a low B12 deficiency because I wasn't eating enough meat products. B12 is found in animal products like dairy and meat. And having too little can lead to fatigue, which was the symptom that encouraged me to get checked, but also more severe things like neurological problems like poor memory, depression, mania, and a specific form of anemia. I got my blood work done. I saw that I had a B12 deficiency. It was recommended by my doctor to start taking a B12 supplement. And since I've been taking it, I have noticed improved symptoms with my fatigue. And the B12 supplement that I take, I think most of them are like this because it helps with the absorption, but it actually goes under my tongue. It's a pretty fun supplement. So if you're curious about your B12, especially if you're plant-based or a vegetarian, definitely go get your blood work checked and use your blood work as information and a resource to see what supplements you might need rather than blindly taking all of them. All right, so those are our B vitamins. Our last water-soluble vitamin is vitamin C. Vitamin C is considered an antioxidant, which helps remove free radicals from the body, which basically means that it helps take out all the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. This is why vitamin C is really important when you're sick, because it helps remove that bad stuff, keep the good stuff, and make you feel better. It's naturally found in really colorful fruits and vegetables, like oranges are really bright, and also organ meats. If you don't have enough vitamin C, healing is a lot harder on the body, especially with different wounds and injuries. If you don't have enough vitamin C to help repair, it's going to take longer to heal. Too much vitamin C can actually increase your risk for kidney stones, so you want to make sure you're getting enough, but not too much. All right, so those are the water-soluble vitamins. We have all the vitamin Bs and then vitamin C. Now we're going to move into our fat-soluble vitamins, which are vitamins A, D, E, and K. So vitamin A is actually closely linked to our eye health. Too little vitamin A can cause some difficulty seeing, like night blindness, hard time seeing in dim lighting, and dry eyes. Which actually makes sense because I don't know if you've heard when you were growing up that if you wanted to see well, eat carrots, because carrots have a high content of vitamin A, and that will help you see better because of the vitamin A. You can get it in carrots, but you can also get it in many other red, orange, and yellow fruits and vegetables. And you can also find it in egg yolks and dark leafy greens. Now, because we're in the fat-soluble vitamins and we can store them, it is important to be aware of the upper levels of vitamins A, D, E, and K because they can have some negative symptoms. So if you're getting too much vitamin A, you can have nausea, headaches, fatigue, and specifically if you're pregnant, you can have some birth defects, which is why a lot of prenatal vitamins lower the vitamin A amounts. Next up is vitamin D, baby. And vitamin D, a lot of us talk about because we want to get it from the sun. It's most ideal to get our vitamin D from the sun, but if you live somewhere cold like I do in the winter, your vitamin D levels might drop during the winter time. This is where supplementation can come into play, but just know that you can't overdose on vitamin D from the sun, but you can overdo it when it comes to vitamin D from supplementation. Vitamin D is a little bit different than the other vitamins we've talked about because even though foods do have vitamin D in them, it's very, very small amounts. So we mainly rely on the sun and supplementation to get our vitamin D. Just like vitamin B12, I recommend getting your vitamin D levels checked so you can actually see where your vitamin D level is and supplement as needed. I always recommend using the labs and using the science to lead you towards your supplements rather than starting with the supplements and then looking back and seeing that you've been over the levels for an extended period of time. Specifically with vitamin D, it would be best to get your vitamin D levels checked in the summer and then also checked in the winter to see if you need vitamin D supplementation only during specific times in the year. This is one that you definitely want to check with your doctor, use the labs, use it to your advantage, and be an informed consumer with your supplements. Vitamin E also has antioxidant properties like vitamin C and plays a role with our immune system and our inflammation. Vitamin E can be found in nuts and seeds and avocados. And not getting enough can lead to some interesting side effects like muscle weakness, coordination issues, and damage to your red blood cells. But too much vitamin E can impact your blood clotting. So you want to make sure you're in that sweet spot with your vitamin E. And then our last vitamin is vitamin K. And there's two types of vitamin K, vitamin K1 and vitamin K2. K1 is found in plants and K2 is found in animals. But to keep it simple, vitamin K is involved with blood clotting, which is why too much vitamin E can impact your blood clotting because vitamin E interferes with vitamin K. Not getting enough vitamin K can lead to bleeding out and anemia. Vitamin K is actually very different from a lot of the other vitamins because our gut bacteria can synthesize vitamin K. But when you're a baby, you don't really have that gut microbiome to do that. So most newborns get a vitamin K shot when they're first born to make sure we're getting our vitamin K until our gut bacteria can start producing it on its own. So that wraps up all of our vitamins, and I really wanted to go in depth because each vitamin is very unique in its functions, but we need our vitamins to function properly. If not, we can get sick and our key processes just won't happen the way they're supposed to. So now let's talk about minerals, and minerals support all of our biochemical processes. This is where electrolytes come into play. I know electrolytes are a big topic right now, and we're definitely going to talk about that. But there also are minerals that act as enzymes, which help speed up reactions that we do on a day-to-day basis. Some minerals that you may have heard of are calcium, chloride, potassium, magnesium, sodium, and many other types of minerals. But the important thing to know about minerals is that balance is key. When we have imbalances in our minerals, some nasty side effects can happen. For example, if you have too much calcium but too little magnesium, you can get muscle cramps. And if you have too much potassium, you can have heart arrhythmias. There are two different categories of minerals. We have major minerals, which we need in large quantities, and then we have trace minerals, which we need less quantities. Let's start with our major minerals. First, we have calcium. And calcium, a lot of us know it for our bones and our teeth, but it also is involved in our muscle contraction and relaxation. You can find calcium in things like tofu, green vegetables, legumes, milk, and other dairy products. Chloride is another major mineral, and processed foods have a ton of chloride, specifically in the form of sodium chloride, which is salt. And most foods have some form of chloride in there, so deficiency is pretty rare. But chloride is important because it's part of our stomach acid in the form of hydrochloric acid. And it also helps maintain gradients in your membranes, which is important for fluid balance. Next is magnesium. And magnesium is one that we need for a lot of processes. Magnesium is really important in our bodies, but most of us don't get enough magnesium in our diets. Magnesium has this calming effect, so it's been shown that magnesium can help reduce anxiety, muscle cramps, and aid in your sleep. And it's also involved in carbohydrate and fat metabolism, which is why a low level of magnesium deficiency can be linked with type 2 diabetes. Certain foods have higher magnesium content like beans, legumes, dark leafy greens, but also dark chocolate, which this is why most people crave chocolate when they're about to get their period because you're craving magnesium, which is very interesting. And because of the calming effect of magnesium, too little magnesium can actually lead to some mood problems like problems with thinking, problems with memory, and just overall mood imbalances. The next major mineral is sodium, and sodium is one that a lot of people are talking about now because of these electrolyte packets and things like that. Sodium is really important in maintaining a gradient, an electrochemical gradient in your membranes, and it plays a big role in your fluid retention and your overall fluid balance. That's why sodium is one of those electrolytes that's linked with hydration. However, it's important to know that sodium is found in a lot of processed foods. So if you're eating a lot of processed foods, you're likely already reaching your sodium content. So it's important to look at your food labels and see how much sodium is in everything. For example, soy sauce has a ton of sodium. Salt, anything that's super salty is going to have sodium. So sodium packets or these electrolyte packets can have benefits, especially for athletes or if you're sweating a lot, excessive exercise, to help maintain your electrochemical gradient and reduce symptoms like fatigue, cramps, nausea. But too much sodium can lead to increased fluid volume and edema, and also some nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, or abdominal cramps. Next is sulfur, which we don't really hear a lot about, but sulfur is a major mineral that we need in our bodies. It's actually the third most abundant mineral in our body. And it's because of its role with 3 very important amino acids: cysteine, methionine, and taurine. Sulfur comes from foods that have protein, so any meats, protein-dense foods, even garlic and onions can have some sulfur in there. A sulfur deficiency is pretty rare unless you're on a very strict, very low protein plant-based diet. Sulfur helps in liver detoxification, collagen synthesis, acid-base balance, and has some antioxidant properties. Next is potassium. Potassium is another major mineral that works with sodium to maintain the sodium-potassium gradient. Basically, potassium balances sodium. So these two work together, and both are essential for this fluid balance that we've been talking about. Now, an interesting fact for you is that some people have estimated that our ancestors ate 10 times more potassium than sodium, which, based on the evidence now, I feel like that has flipped for us. A lot of us eat a lot of sodium in our diets and maybe not as much potassium. And the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, has stated that the average American only consumes 60% of their potassium needs. Too little potassium can lead to muscle cramps, high blood pressure, kidney stones, bone loss, and arrhythmias. And too much can also cause arrhythmias, as well as tingling in the extremities, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and muscle weakness. We naturally get potassium from fruits and vegetables like bananas, potatoes, beans, legumes, dairy, fish, and whole grains. And then our last major mineral is phosphorus, which we also don't hear a lot about. But phosphorus is important for every single cell in our bodies. Phosphorus makes up ATP. The P stands for phosphate, which ATP is our energy source. So phosphorus is important for every single cell. However, excess and deficiency of phosphorus is not common at all. So you don't really have to worry about that. We find it in a lot of foods like beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, cheese, especially ricotta cheese, which I love, beef, eggs, and fish. So those are all of our major minerals. Those are the ones we need in large quantities. But we also need our trace minerals, and even though we need them in less quantities, they are still important for our body to function properly. And we'll go over these pretty quickly. So the trace minerals include iodine, which plays a role in our thyroid, but deficiency in iodine is pretty rare in industrialized countries like the United States. But in other countries that are less developed, iodine deficiency is much more common. We also have iron, which is important for all kinds of things, specifically with our hemoglobin and our red blood cells, which is why women need more iron than men to support menstruation, but women tend to eat less foods with iron in them, which is backwards because women tend to be more plant-based or just eat less in general. So in order to keep your iron high, it's important to make sure you're eating foods that contain iron, like beans, legumes, dark leafy greens, fish, shellfish, red meats, seaweed, and other iron-rich foods. We also have zinc, and animal forms of zinc are more bioavailable than plant forms. So you can find zinc in foods like pork, poultry, wild animals, seafood, beef, lamb, and it plays a big role in growth, development, reproduction, neurological function, and many other functions in our body. We also have copper, which copper deficiency is very rare, and copper can be found in dark chocolate, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, and beans and legumes. We have fluoride, which helps with our bones and our teeth, and our water actually has fluoride in it, so just make sure you're drinking enough water. We also need selenium, which can be found in poultry, red meats, eggs, whole grains. It's an antioxidant, so it helps reduce free radicals in our body, which we always want more of. But too much selenium can be an issue. Selenium deficiency is rare in more industrialized countries, but selenium in excess can happen, and it's actually a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. If you've ever heard of Brazil nuts, just eating 6 of them can pass the daily recommendation for selenium. So just be careful if you're eating any Brazil nuts. But too much selenium can cause hair, skin, and nail problems, as well as fatigue, nervous system abnormalities, and an upset GI system. Another trace mineral is chromium. If you're eating a high sugar diet, your body is likely excreting more chromium, which means you might need more because chromium plays a big role in glucose metabolism and insulin support. But even though chromium is important for glucose metabolism, it's not recommended to take a chromium supplement for things like type 2 diabetes because there's just not enough evidence for that. And then lastly, we have manganese and molybdenum. Manganese can be found in nuts, leafy greens, and whole grains, and tea actually, and it acts as an antioxidant. And molybdenum can also be found in legumes, nuts, potatoes, and green vegetables, and it helps with metabolism of different toxins as well as carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur. So those are all of our trace minerals. We already talked about our major minerals. We talked about both water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins, and we talked about phytonutrients, micronutrients, and zoonutrients. That is a wrap, a little introduction on our micronutrients. But I want to finish this episode off with some do's and don'ts of supplementation. Like we talked about in the beginning, it's important to not blindly take supplements just because they're recommended to you on social media from your favorite influencer. It's important to be educated on what you're taking, what's in it, and there's some certain things that I look for in a supplement to see if it's worth taking or not. First things first is that every single person is different on what their needs are for micronutrients. It's important to take into consideration these different factors because the needs vary depending on person to person. For example, between male and female, different ages, stress levels, whether you're pregnant or menstruating, if you have any genetic differences, if you're injured or if you're sick, your activity level, if you're an athlete, how often you exercise, the intensity. And then a really important one that I don't think people talk about enough is our medications. Even a medication like birth control that so many of us have taken or take has a big effect on our absorption of our vitamins. There's a book called This Is Your Brain on Birth Control by Dr. Sarah Hill, and there's a table in there that shows the effect of vitamin absorption from birth control. Other medications also have similar effects when it comes to how you absorb vitamins. So if you're taking a medication like that, talk to your doctor and ask, is there a higher risk of certain vitamin deficiencies because of the medication? You also want to think about your liver because your liver filters out all of these things. So if you're taking medications and then you're introducing supplements, that might be a lot on your liver as well. I think people glamorize supplementation and they put it all over that they're taking this pill, that pill, and you're taking 20 pills. But it might be too much on your liver as well. So always consult with your doctor if you're concerned about these things, especially if you're on medications, because your liver is already working overtime on filtering those out. Also, while you're with your doctor talking about your medications, ask for blood work. Ask for tests to see where your vitamin levels are at. I said this earlier, but I got blood work done through my doctor. Turns out I was deficient in vitamin D and vitamin B12. Rather than me just taking these supplements blindly, I got lab work first, then I purchased the supplements from sources, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then I started taking my supplements because my body actually needed those supplements. We are so lucky that we have so many resources at our disposal where we can get blood work and see what we're deficient in. Science is so advanced, we can see what deficiencies we have, so why wouldn't we use that? Rather than listening to some influencer who's getting $10,000 to sell you this product, go to your doctor and get blood work and see if you actually even need it. Less is more when it comes to supplementation. You don't want to overdo it and take things that you don't need just because you see it somewhere. It is always better to get as many nutrients as you can from your diet through whole foods and whole sources rather than from some pill. I always say this to my clients when they ask me about supplements. Supplements are meant to be exactly that. They're meant to be a supplement as an addition to your diet. Your diet should be number one and your supplements should come after that. So even things like protein powder, I know that that's not a micronutrient, but protein powder should not be your whole source of protein every single day in your diet. That should be used as a supplement if you're not hitting your protein goals. You should always prioritize getting your protein from real foods and then supplement with protein powder as necessary rather than relying completely on protein powder. That goes for every supplement. The goal should always be to get it from your diet and whole food sources and then use the supplement in addition if needed. Another thing to keep in mind, and this is one that is so important, is looking at the source of your supplement. So let's say you go to the doctor, you get blood work, and you still need supplementation in a certain vitamin, right? You don't just want to buy whatever vitamin you see somewhere. It's really important to do your research on where this vitamin is coming from because unfortunately, not all vitamins and supplements are created equally. The FDA does not approve or regulate the supplement industry, so a lot of people make a lot of money off of supplements that are complete BS. Or maybe the supplement itself isn't BS, but that supplement is only needed for a very specific population, and then somewhere, somehow, social media made it that everyone needs this supplement. Some things to look for in your supplements are first, look at the ingredients. Are the ingredients just what the supplement is offering, or are there added ingredients, specifically artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, different gums? One ingredient that's found in a lot of supplements is titanium dioxide, which has a lot of health risks, including autoimmune disorders, cancers, and other negative consequences, and it's added to supplements, which people think are making them feel better. You want to look out for any titanium dioxide, silicone dioxide, stearic acid, vegetable gums, talc, all these different ingredients that are found in a lot of vitamins. You really want to check out the ingredients, and if you don't know what it is, look it up before you buy it. A lot of powders have a lot of artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors in them, so definitely check out your ingredient list on every supplement that you take or are thinking of taking. And don't get tempted by the random health claims that they put on the label. Like I've been saying, there's no regulation of supplements, so these companies can put anything they want, and you might get tempted into buying it because they have good branding and good messaging. The last thing to look for on the label is looking for third-party testing. Because the FDA is not involved, there are companies that third-party certify different dietary supplements and their ingredients to make sure that the vitamin or the supplement is what it says it is. Some common ones would be certified gluten-free to show if it's gluten-free or not, NSF, USDA organic, and the non-GMO project, which these labels, you've probably seen them without even realizing what they are. Look into those labels and make sure that it's saying what it's supposed to be saying. If a product has a third-party tested label, it means that the company went out of its way to make sure that they could prove that this product is what it says it is. But even if it has these labels, still be wary in trusting your supplements and do your research. Take the extra time to make sure that this is what you are looking for, because I've been saying this and I will keep saying it, that supplement companies can lie. And a lot of supplements have low quality ingredients in them. They have added things that you didn't know were in them. So really be an informed consumer and do your research. We have tons of resources at our fingertips, like Google, and we can look things up and we can find the founders of the companies. Like, do your research for every single supplement, because this is our body. We get one body. Are you really going to take a supplement every single day and not know what's in it? If you're taking supplements right now, you've been taking them, I encourage you to go into your cabinet, check out the labels, and read through them. And if there's any ingredients that you've never heard of, or you looked them up and they're not so good, get rid of it. I don't care how much money you spent on it. It is not worth it, in my opinion, to take something that can do more harm than good. Lastly, I want to wrap this up and just bring it home that supplements are supposed to help you, not hurt you, but too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. So really do your research, use your labs, use the science, use your doctors, use the people around you to figure out what supplements you should be taking, what supplements you shouldn't be taking, and really be a mindful consumer. We get all kinds of products and supplements and health claims shoved down our throats from social media. And while some of them are great, and I'm sure they have great backing, not everything is one size fits all. Really take the time and do not be tempted by these health claims and things that you see somewhere without doing the research first. You have to be an advocate in your health, and in order to do that, you have to be informed. I really, really hope that this episode showed you and taught you things. I know that this one was a longer one, but I really wanted to get into the micronutrients because it's, one, something I'm passionate about, if you couldn't tell, And two, it's something that a lot of people just don't talk about. So let me know if this helped. Let me know if you learned something. I really love how this podcast is coming out. The messages that I get about it and just the new people that I've been introduced to from it have really been so nice to see. So thank you for listening and thank you for making it all the way here. If you found any kind of value in this, share it with a friend. That is the best way to help the podcast grow. I love connecting with you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not already, follow the podcast at Nerdy and Flirty Pod on Instagram. And you can also follow me at Cass Camp. Give this a 5-star review and nothing less. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you next week. Bye.